You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. The NBA has a late night tonight on TNT, a doubleheader. Lakers at Cavs at 7:30 Eastern, and at 10 o'clock, it's Mavs at the Nuggets. Also tonight, Pistons are at the Heat. That game is at 7:30. In the National Hockey League, it's just about a full slate. Some of the games of interest on the ice tonight. Most of these can be seen on ESPN+. Red Wings are at the Lightnings at 7 o'clock Eastern. The Devils will look to continue to dominate as they host the Blackhawks at 7. Blues are at the Islanders at 7:30. Penguins host the Blue Jackets at 7. Panthers and Jets, the puck drops at 8. Best game on the late slate at 8:30, the Maple Leafs are at the Stars. That can also be seen on Hulu. While the Canadians at 10 o'clock are at the Kraken. Top 25 action in college basketball. Jimmy V Classic, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Number 2 Texas hosts number 17 Illinois. That doubleheader will conclude at 9:30, where the 6-1 Iowa Hawkeyes will take on the Duke Blue Devils, number 15 in the country. Both games are on ESPN and in Madison Square Garden. 7 o'clock Eastern on the SEC Network, number 9 Arkansas hosts Greensboro. Number 1 Houston welcomes in UNF. The North Florida Ospreys are 0-5 and a 32-point underdog. Virginia and James Madison, that tip is at 8 o'clock on the ACC Network. Number 13 Maryland is at Wisconsin at 9 o'clock on ESPN2. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
Armchair.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Rum and Cokes.
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the bubble. Really? This is what you're doing?
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
Radio station. The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio. We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We're here live weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, and simulcasting on youtube.com /at Braves Country. Your first choice for Southern sports. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I don't know much, but I know one thing. Folks are lining up to sign up Odell Beckham Jr. Folks like San Francisco better get a quarterback first.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man. Yeah, the armchair quarterback.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Joey is on the way. He'll be here in just a few minutes, and we're going to get to talking a lot of MLB free agency, as a lot of that stuff starting to move and shake. And then, of course, the NFL, college football. We're going to talk some lines and some early games. The first week of or weekend of college football bowls is right around the corner. It all starts next Friday. So we're going to look at those early games. And then, of course, we're also going to get into a little Army-Navy talk. And then before we get any of that going, because there's so much stuff going on with the MLB free agency, they're in their winter meetings. But in the middle of all this, news broke a few hours ago that the Tennessee Titans have fired their general manager, John Robinson. And a lot of folks might be a little surprised by that, but I, for one, am not. And I'll tell you why. John Robinson has been butting heads with a lot of folks in the building, but particularly Vrabel did not like one iota. Did he like the trade that took place last spring, right before the draft, where A.J. Brown went to the Eagles? Titans went up to Philadelphia. They got crushed. And so now what you have is a scenario where Vrabel and Robinson were at odds. And I think it really came down to the fact that the ownership sided with Vrabel, and it sounds like he's going to get more power going forward in the front office. And I know it might be a little strange for a lot of folks to sit here and see this, because they're like, well, wait a minute. This guy has brought in good players. They've won division after division, but the Titans have a hope of a little more. And right now, this team doesn't look like it's going to get out of the first round. If it does, it won't get much further than that. And you can lay a lot of it on the fact that they don't have an explosive passing offense. And you could read the tea leaves in the post-game press conference when they were asking Vrabel, and then later on Monday they asked Vrabel again, and he kind of laid it at the feet of what kind of players they have, and that they're handcuffed. And my guess is going to be that it came to a head. They had some kind of a butting of heads, and where we're at now is the Titans will move forward without John Robinson. And John Robinson, I'm sure, will not have any problem finding a new job next year. There's going to be someone who's going to want to hire him. Look, he turned the Titans around when he came in, but sometimes things just get stale. And where it looks like what it sounded like to me coming out of Nashville is that a lot of folks were essentially at the point of seeing Vrabel basically saying it's either me or him, and they chose Vrabel, and rightfully so. Mike Vrabel is one of the better coaches in the National Football League, and it reminds me of the old saying. Remember years and years ago when Bill Parcells was really ticked off, and he said something to the effect of, if you're going to ask me to cook, I need to have a hand in what groceries we're going to have. And that's where Vrabel is right now. So we'll see what happens going forward with the Titans. But right now, they're going to go on without Robinson. Of course, there are some things that the general managers will be doing in the regular season, obviously, but the bigger job always takes place in the offseason. And they've got guys and gals that they'll move up a rank, and then everyone will just pick up the pieces. But big picture is the Titans are still leading the AFC South. They have a 4-game lead on the Jaguars and a 5-game lead on the Colts. And Titans play the Jaguars this weekend in Tennessee, and it is a game they normally dominate. Derrick Henry normally goes off. So that being said, I think this also might have been a way to generate some energy, not just in the locker room, but also in the fan base. As the Titans, they win this weekend, the division's theirs. And so we will move on from that. But remember, Army, Navy, we will be bringing you that broadcast 3 p.m. Saturday. We'll be doing play-by-play, and I do believe I will have tones here for the color, and we look forward to that. And other things going on in Major League Baseball. He had a few minor signings, but the main thing that everybody's kind of jumping through hoops to try to figure out what is going on at this point is really they want to see, where is Aaron Judge going? And the rumor has came out that they expect him to land in San Diego sometime today, which is where the MLB winter meetings are taking place. And with that being said, you're going to be looking at things where when that shoe finally falls, and I think it falls within the next day or so, I really thought it might happen early today, but it sounds like that it's going to happen either this evening, late this evening. And remember, they're 3 hours behind us, so it could happen late this evening. I mean, my word, it's only noon out there in San Diego right now. So it could happen this evening, or it could be something that happens overnight where the news breaks, or possibly tomorrow. Tomorrow being Wednesday. Wednesday's the last full day there. Most folks leave out of there some point on Thursday. So today and tomorrow is where you really get a lot of the heavy hitting. And of course, we've had a lot of signings already for Major League Baseball with the Trey Turner signing. You also had Verlander going to the Mets, and we talked a lot about that yesterday. There is a report coming out of Pittsburgh that the Pirates have signed Vince Velasquez pending physical. That's a minor signing when it's all said and done. You know, the Orioles, they have agreed to terms on a minor league contract with outfielder Nomar Mazara. You also have a couple other things that's happened over the last few days, including Sean Murphy getting moved around, shopped around. And so this is, and of course the Yankees bring back Tommy Kahnle and a reliever on a 2-year deal. But other than that, there hasn't been big news today as of yet. But you also have the Japanese free agent, Kodaiya, I believe it's pronounced Senga or Senga. And he is a free agent pitcher that usually that posts sometime in early January. There's going to be teams bidding for him. So all that's coming into play. And then also we have a couple of other things going on, including the National Football League and some of the injuries that are taking place there. Joey's going to join me here in a moment. We're going to kind of go over that. And some things have gone on in college football. If you are an ACC fan or a Florida State fan, or even if you're a Clemson fan and you're not necessarily an FSU fan, but you're interested in what's going on in and around the Seminoles have signed or are expecting to have one of the Hurricanes' big name defensive tackles. He is wanting to transfer, and he's wanting to transfer to Florida State. His name is Darrell Jackson, starting defensive tackle. And one of the reasons he's wanting to, here's the thing. So he originally transferred from Maryland in 2021, and now he's wanting to transfer from Miami to FSU. And the NCAA rule states that you can't do that without sitting out a year, but you can apply for a pass by the NCAA. And one of the reasons why they do believe that he will get it granted is that his mother is ill and lives in Quincy, Florida, which is right up the road from Tallahassee. And that's the main reason why he's wanting to transfer. So we'll see if Miami tries to block that, with that being a rival. But as of right now, that's what's going on with FSU and the Darrell Jackson. And then, of course, John, the big news today is John Robinson getting fired by the Titans. I really didn't think that was going to happen. And also, while I'm on the site, a little other Florida State related news. Jordan Travis, their quarterback, he has stated he is coming back for the 2023 season, which that does not shock me at all. He was not being projected as a high draft pick, and really his best bet is to come back, make a run at the Heisman Trophy, but he's going to make some NIL money. And so I don't think this would have happened 3-4 years ago. I think a kid would be like, well, I'm getting older, I'm not getting any younger. I need to go try and make it in the NFL or CFL or wherever. But he'll come back for what it'll be his 6th year because of COVID. These kids, 2020 was a pass, and rightfully so. If you remember all the circumstances at that time, it was just, well, it was insane. It was insane that what the kids had to go through. And some of the kids didn't even get to play. And then some of the kids that did play didn't play much. And then some of them just said, to heck with it, I'm not going to play. And so that's why that takes place. We'll get clear of that in about a year or so. But with all that going on, and Odell Beckham Jr., he is being wooed by several teams. And we'll get into that here just a little later, because the thing about Beckham, and I get it that he's a very talented receiver, but he's getting up there in age, and now this is the second major injury. There comes a point where you wonder how much of a factor can he be. We're about to hit week 14, and he's going to have to come in to whatever team. Most people think it's the Cowboys. Okay, let's just say it's the Cowboys. He comes into the Cowboys. Let's say he signs today. Let's say he signs in the next 5 minutes. He won't hit the field till week 15 at the very earliest, maybe even week 16, and make real contributions till 17 or 18. Best case scenario. So anyone out there thinking about picking up in fantasy and whatnot, I don't think it's worth it. You're getting at the very last week of most leagues. This is the very last week of the regular season. Your playoffs start, and you really want to start a receiver who's brand new to an offense. I wouldn't. So we'll see how that plays out in real football. It's going to be interesting because I do not believe that he's going to be able to make any real contributions. Maybe if he was going back to the Rams, who are now out of it, so you wouldn't go to the Rams. But maybe if he was going back to the Rams, he was already familiar with the playbook. I get it. But wherever he goes, he's going to have like basic 5 to 7 route trees that they're going to say, just run this and let's hope you get open. All right, we're going to go ahead and take that break. When we come back, Joey is joining us, and we will be able to dive in to a lot of things. In fact, Cubs free agency, we got some news on that. Bucks Saints reaction. Are the Bucks dead, or did they push the sun back up in the sky for a few more weeks? And other things going on in Major League Baseball, including St. Louis Cardinals announcer who is in trouble. We will be back in a flash here on Braves Country on WQEE.
Someone asked me one time, "You ever bet in the WNBA?" I'm like, no. Nobody cares about the WNBA. They don't, sorry. Perfect example, Brittany Griner, WNBA superstar, currently in a Russian prison. If that were LeBron James, we would have sent SEAL Team 6, Jason Bourne, and 3 Girl Scouts for an extraction.
It's time to live, laugh, and create memories again with MSC Cruises. Join us on some of the world's most modern and innovative ships. Discover again at our new private island, Ocean Key MSC Marine Reserve, named Best New Cruise Destination. Cruise the Caribbean and Bahamas from Miami or Port Canaveral. Book now with free balcony upgrades and flexible booking changes. Call your travel advisor or visit msccruises.com. Restrictions apply. MSC Cruises, a world of discovery.
Wendy's only makes one kind of breakfast, your new favorite one. How do we do it? With fresh cracked eggs, oven-baked bacon, and flaky croissants. You know, the things your old breakfast wasn't doing. So toss that old news and its soggy eggs somewhere useful. And get to Wendy's. A sausage, egg, and Swiss croissant, bacon, egg, and Swiss croissant, and honey butter chicken biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Limited time only. Single item at regular price. Price and participation may vary at U.S. Wendy's.
Armchair Quarterbacks Radio covers the whole SEC the whole season long.
Dobbs heaves it. They're bunched up in the end zone. It's tipped up. It's caught. It is caught. Jennings.
This is starting to things. First quarter at the Geetha Bowl in Jacksonville, and Walker sneaks to the right, gets outside, the 35, look out. He's past midfield, and he's got a blocker, cuts to the inside. Herschel Walker, there he goes again.
Straight up the middle. Touchdown. Delayed reaction, but Tebow got in. Oh, jump pass. How about that? Oh, my gosh. That looks like 1955. Holy cow. Are you kidding me?
Armchair.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays 3 to 5 p.m. drive time on WQEE. Braves Country, weekdays 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 99.1 FM The Key, your first choice for Southern sports talk.
McLovin? McLovin? What kind of a stupid name is that, Fogel? What, are you trying to be an Irish R&B singer?
Oh, they let you pick any name you want when you get down there.
And you landed on McLovin.
Yeah, I was between that and Muhammad.
Why would it be between that or Muhammad? Why don't you pick a common name like a normal person?
Muhammad is the most commonly used name on earth. Read a book for once.
Fogel, have you ever actually met anyone named Muhammad?
Have you actually ever met anyone named McLovin?
You look like a future pedophile in this picture, number one. Number two, it doesn't even have a first name. It just says McLovin.
What? One name? One name? Who are you, Steve?
I am McLovin.
Broken pretzels in the rug. The beer cans could be worse. She'll clean it up tomorrow and dread September 1st. But once again, welcome back. Well, the season's finally here, and the players hit the field. And every man feels like a boy, and every wife could kill.
So, for those who don't know what's going on, we just recently changed our platform on how we stream, etc. The short of it is, there's a new way for Joey to join, and it slipped my mind. I was thinking, let's go, let's ready to roll, because in the past, you've had one entry, and you keep it. It's the same entry every day, but now, evidently, it's a new one. I did experiment with that. I thought maybe the one that Tones used yesterday to come into the room would be what you would use, but instead, I tried that earlier today with the dummy account just to see, and it evidently that thing's still going. That stream just sits there for several, which I was like, wow, okay, all right, that's what happens. Okay, so that would have been a big mistake, and I'm glad I sent the right stream to the Key so they were able to get in. I'm glad I didn't just assume, but between that and a couple other things, and I do apologize to everyone who's involved. Earlier, right before the show started, I've got these ads playing and whatnot, ready to roll into the show, and I forgot that because the platform's different, I have to have my microphone on for you to hear it. I didn't have to. That was not the case before. Before I could mute my microphone and everything was good to go. But instead, I'm sitting here, I'm like, and I don't hear anything on their end. I'm wondering, and I was like, oh, I'm not. Anyways, I apologize to everyone involved there, but I've made a note in big letters to remind me going forward that, get it together, McGee. Get it together. All right, brother. How are you doing today? I know you went to the game yesterday.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I should say for about 3.5 quarters, it was very it's similar to watching the.
I can barely hear you.
The
Sound like you got a pair, Private.
Sounding better now?
Yes.
Okay, so, I was at the game yesterday, and the first 3.5 quarters was beyond lackluster. I mean, it was just unreal. The Bucs offense had the first drive where they had 3 points, and then nothing after that. Sitting there with the family and obviously Mr. Tampa Tones, it was just disappointment. But, hey, Brady came through late and pulled off another low-scoring victory. But still, the Bucs aren't what they used to be the last couple of years, so that was a little disappointing. But a huge win, and now in first place, comfortably in the division for now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, look, the way I see that game was they did a really good job of coming back, and then also I believe that they are able to make the playoffs because they're going to win that division. But at the same token, it's just not a very good team. that offensive line is in shambles. Brady's doing the best he can, but he's running for his life at age 45. So I just think he's in trouble in general.
Yeah, and it's disappointing too because there is a lot of name recognition there with the receiving crew. You have Lenny F in the background. Rashad White got that game-winning TV, but I don't know what it is, if it's the play calling or if it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady usually does have pretty good stats, but they can't get the running game off the ground most times often than not. But it's just disappointing to see these slow starts always, and they shouldn't have to come. It was a nice comeback, like you said. And obviously, being at the game, you'd rather take that. But it's kind of hard to watch. The defense holds its own, and then the offense just has a lot of miscues. That pick by Tom Brady was just unacceptable.
Yeah, just looking for basically, I think where the Bucs are is they're going to win the division. I would be shocked if the Falcons or anyone. The Falcons and everyone else in that division, including the Saints and the Panthers, really needed Tampa Bay to lose last night. And the Saints proved why Andy Dalton should not be your starting quarterback. Can't hold on to a 16-3 lead with 4 minutes left in the game. There's a problem. And there's also a reason why you don't have a quarterback playing tight end. That was a fairly nice pass by Dalton. I will give him that on that final third down. But what a terrible way to lose the game, essentially, because he hits him in the breadbasket and then Hill doesn't hold on to the ball. Well, what do you expect from a guy who's a quarterback out there playing tight end? So,
and everything just had to go perfect towards the end. Like starting from that play where Mark Ingram ran out short, and then the Dalton throw that you're alluding to, or whoever threw that ball. It just was. Everything had to go right in Tampa Bay. It fell their way. They had a couple of nice drives, but the Saints did control a lot of that game, and they usually do. We alluded to it a lot on past shows. They played this team very, very well. Nothing new as of yesterday. So fell their right way at the end. Saints, I don't know. Dennis Allen seems to be on the hot seat with the New Orleans fans today.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's move on from that for a second. Major League Baseball free agency real quick. The only thing I really want to touch on is a rumor I heard about the Cubs.
Yes.
And that is they are still looking for two of the remaining three big name free agents. And to me, that is wow.
Hey, it's been a little bit hard to be a Cubs fan the last year and a half once they got rid of the team that brought us a championship in 2016. But like you said, with going after a couple of names, whether it's maybe a Bogarts and a Dansby Swanson, I saw a report on those couple of names. I would be I was hoping for one of these guys. I know Trey Turner fell off the board, but like I said, still got Bogarts, Swanson, other names. If they can come down with a couple of guys, oh baby, you could turn this thing around faster than I thought. I'll settle with one if it is just, I saw reports on Swanson.
Okay, but here's my thing is, who the hell is going to sign two big dollar shortstops, and they're going to have to slide one of them where? Because Dansby Swanson's not leaving short. He's one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. I don't think Correa would do it either. He's also one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. Now, maybe if you overpay like a ridiculous amount, you give a guy 10 years, $300 million, maybe he's like, whatever, man, it's better than going another 1 year deal. But at the same token, the way I'm looking at this is if you pay one of them, I guess what? Okay, let's say if it's Xander Bogaerts.
Okay.
You're going to put him at first base or third. Then you're overpaying for his value. Because the reason why he's getting such a high dollar is because they're able to play shortstop and bring the wood, right?
Right.
I just find the whole thing strange. When I heard that today, where they were talking about that still the Cubs could be after two of the three, that shocked me, especially because there's rumors coming out that he's going to that Correa is about to get offered a big time deal by Minnesota.
Yeah, when it comes down to positional value as we look at these guys, it would be. That's why I don't think it's going to happen at the end of the day. It's just too hard to do. I'll settle for one, but the Cubs have the money, and like Correa just, I'm sure they're all getting offers out there, but Correa, like you said, seems to be the next monster, maybe chip to fall in terms of the years and the money on that hand. So I will not be disappointed at all, and I don't think it would be a bad strategy if we got one of these guys, even if it, say we get Swanson, okay, then let's focus maybe on we're a couple starters away. A relief game I'm not going to worry about yet because to me, you need to start with getting a couple of bats and a starting pitcher. But hey, it's good.
I get it from your perspective as a fan. Okay, give me a couple.
Right.
Let's go. But you also got to look at the fact that if you sign, let's say you sign Correa to a $300 million deal, or Xander, and let's say Dansby gets somewhere in the neighborhood just below 200. You're spending $500 million on one position essentially, and you're going to slide one guy out of his position and overpay when you could have signed someone much cheaper. To me, the smarter route would be to sign Swanson, if that's what you want, or Correa, but I think you get cheaper with Swanson, and then go somewhere else with the money that you have. Because Nico Horner, what's the plans with him?
Exactly. I mean, as of right now, he's in the mix in the future. So from a business perspective and a business decision, I'm signing one of these guys and then seeing what else you could do. It would, as a fan, I want it. Want the names in there. If I could have Bogarts and Swanson in the lineup every day, of course, more jersey sales, more fun. Hopefully, he scores some more runs. But when it comes down to a business decision, like you said, Swanson, let's sign him and then let's see what else we can do before we lock up two of these guys and not have much cap. I wouldn't say not.
Moving on from that real quick, and then we'll go to football. Aaron Judge, where does he sign?
I think the Giants are just gonna make such a big deal. He's not gonna be able to get away from it and goes there. What about you?
I think he's going to San Francisco, and I think it's going to be about an 8-9 year deal. And I think it's going to be a situation where you're going to get. I think it's going to floor the Yankee fans to a degree, but if you go back and read some of the stuff that Judge has said in the past, he is an enormous Giants fan as a kid. He even said that one day, and he was pointing to this year, and this was years ago, about how he couldn't wait to go play for the Giants. And then the other factor is his family's still in California because he grew up there, and the Giants are ready to back up the truck. I think there's going to come a point in the very near future where the Giants are going to say, you're not going to use this as a pawn anymore. You either take our deal and let's go, or you go back to New York and deal with that. What say you?
Everything you just said with ease, I could just say I'm on the same page as you. 8 or 9 years, about right, because he's not the youngest guy in the world. That being said, he's not super old either. But this is going to be something he can't pass up. He'll be living on the Bay, and he'll be doing great things in San Francisco for a while to come. I think the Yankees' run was great. They made a big offer, but I think Aaron Judge might be ready for a new scene and hit the San Fran area.
Okay, moving on from that. You're also a Notre Dame guy, right? Did you see this story? And forgive me, Joe, but I got to mute you when I talk because you've got feedback and it's throwing. What I'm hearing is me echo, and it's driving me crazy. Anyways, in college football, Brett Saley, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He had an article today naming 5 landing spots for DJU, as I call him. I think it's ukulele, but I've heard 9 people pronounce it 9 different ways. So your guess is as good as mine. How do you pronounce his last name? But I call him DJU, not to offend. One of the spots, I think it was the second of the 5 spots, was the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. What say you?
Oh, I mean, listen, we need a quarterback. If you look at Notre Dame this year, had a pretty good season for being starting off 1-2. That loss to Marshall was ugly. I would be very okay with it. Obviously, if he's transferring out of there, that's a little bit of concern. Is he's not the Trevor Lawrence when he was at Clemson, or Deshaun Watson, but he's a good quarterback. Maybe not great, but he's definitely good. The numbers back that up for the most part. And hey, that means Notre Dame realizes their need, and they are going to go after it. Because if this team can land a quarterback of that caliber, I think next year you can see us back in the playoff picture, at least talking about it in that sense. Maybe not make it, but be in that talk.
I have not been impressed with him the entire time. And I think he worries more about making Dr. Pepper commercials than he does getting ready for the games. He's had all the opportunities in Clemson. They've got every bit of talent as anyone does in the country. Clemson has been in the top 5, top 10 recruiting classes for the last decade. So you can't say, well, I don't have enough players, right? And he's the first quarterback to show up there. And I don't remember how long. I can't even tell you the last quarterback was at Clemson that couldn't move the ball. But he's it. Because when you go back through the litany of quarterbacks in Clemson history for the last decade, I mean, they have been a lightning offense in this year. And so anyways, he sees the handwriting on the wall. He knew he was going to lose his job by next year. People have been clamoring for that backup to take his job already. And so he won't be in the bowl game. So you get a good look at the young kid behind center for Clemson. You'll get the same situation with Tennessee. So you'll essentially basically see what Tennessee and Clemson are going to look like next year. So that to me is going to make the bowl game, the Orange Bowl, exciting to watch. But a couple of the other teams that they named, Arizona State, UCLA, Oregon, what was the other one? Virginia. If I'm DJU, the way I would rank it in my if these teams actually want me, and that's the thing, do they actually want? It would be UCLA 1 because of Chip Kelly's offense, Notre Dame number 2 because you're going to get notoriety, and number 3 would probably be Oregon. And Arizona State would probably be 4 in my book because Virginia does not move the ball. Virginia has not moved the ball. I don't remember the last time Virginia had an explosive offense.
Yeah, and I think you have that right. If UCLA, in your opinions at the top, I kind of tend to agree there because, if this guy seems to be more of a little bit worried about other things, he might want to be on that West Coast instead of coming to Notre Dame where, hey, you're in small town Indiana. Yes, you'll get the glamour and all that, but do you want to deal with the winter? Do you want to deal all the bad weather you're going to get? Maybe you just want to go hang out in Cali and, play it cool there at UCLA and get in a good system like you noted.
All right, we got to take a really quick break. When we come back, Deion Sanders is telling everyone in Colorado, pack your bags because I'm bringing players better than you. All right. I hear you, Deion. We'll be back in a flash with that and some NFL.
If you're making sandwiches, always leave the knife hanging over the sink in case you want one later. Be a man.
I'm 7-0 this season. You auto-drafted. That's what all the great GMs do. They delegate. You didn't do anything. Yeah, I did. I set the cue.
Without fantasy football, what would friends talk about?
I almost wore shorts today. Oh. I was going to do a sweatshirt shorts combo. Switched to pants instead.
Armchair.
Hey, sports fans, The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League. And the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM. And simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
Make contact. A collective psychosis is sweeping the nation. We're in the thick of the haze craze, and Elysian is introducing an altered state of IPA. Contact Haze is a tangled chemistry of mild haze, low bitterness, and an explosion of hop aroma. This hazy IPA bursts with notes of bright raspberry, currant, citrus, guava, and passion fruit. Available in 6-pack cans in stores. Make contact.
Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Drive time on WQEE.
Why don't you go to church?
Let me tell you something. I practice being a good person every day, okay? I'm a decent fellow. I do good things. I always leave a big tip. If a squirrel runs in front of the car, do I not swerve? I'm considerate of people's feelings. Remember the plumber who came over with the big eye? I treated him like a completely normal person, okay? So why do I have to go to church every Sunday to prove my goodness? I'm living it.
Well, you know, since you are so good during the week, maybe on Sundays, we should have everybody come over here and sit around you.
He's been 5 years since August, running hot, running cold, and 30 friends are on alert.
Welcome back.
He's the armchair
Braves Country. Armchair Quarterbacks Radio and live on WQEE, The Key. We'll be taking all the way to the 5 o'clock hour. And that's where Sports Map will take over with Farrell Coast to Coast. So let's get that Southern talk in while we can. And look, before we get into the college bowls, because I think there's a lot of fun college bowls to talk about. What about Deion Sanders coming out? I couldn't get a good audio of it. I'm a little upset about that because every audio I got sounded echoey and it was just terrible. So there's no point of playing it. But essentially what he said was he told all the new player, or excuse me, all the old players at Colorado that his new players, that he's bringing a bunch of them from Jackson State and to pack your bags to get in the portal because he was going to change everything there. Now, to me, you got to be a little careful with that. But I do respect the fact that he's shooting him straight. He's saying, hey, you're not the talent that I expect to have to be able to compete at this level. And I'm going to bring in a new class, and I'm going to let them play. But you better be careful because when it comes to a college football team, you usually need about bare minimum 85 deep to be able to compete week in and week out. If you get 50 guys dip out in the portal and you can only recruit in 20, and I know that you're probably planning on bringing 10 guys from Jackson. You're not planning on bringing every guy from Jackson State. Everyone thinks that the Deion Sanders recruited 25 to 35-star athletes at Jackson State. He brought in one at Travis Hunter. That's it. He's had some pretty good players, but he hasn't really developed a lot of players that are now playing on Sunday. So don't kid yourself and think that he's just got this loaded team that's headed towards Boulder and look out Pac-12. But I do find it interesting that he was somewhat, honest with them. What say you? I also think it's a bunch of hoo-ha that he's broadcasting all this and recording all this stuff.
Yeah, look, going back, to his brutal but honest remarks to his team, hey, I like it. A lot of these college coaches are not that straight up as we've known in the past. And is it a risk a little bit? Of course, yes, it is. For as much as we love Deion Sanders' grit, what he did with Jackson State, now moving on to Colorado, everyone seems to be pretty happy from and pulling from. But success has to come down the road eventually. The honeymoon's going to be nice. He's getting into Colorado. He'll be able to clear house. Like you said, bring in some players, but you can't bring over the entire roster, nor would you, just based off of talent. So it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. I feel like a lot of people are going to have high expectations right off the bat. And it's probably going to take a couple of years to get this thing going, even with transfers now and all that. His blueprint and DNA is not going to be on this team, to me, for another couple of seasons. So, Deion, I like where you're putting your money where your mouth is, but at the same time, in the back of everyone's head, we got to realize this is a big step moving to a completely new team where he's going to have to completely build this fan base on winning again.
especially because he's taking over a program. I guess you couldn't really do it much earlier, but it would have been more fortuitous to him to be able to take over the program a few weeks ago. Because you're 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow is what they call the early signing period. And I did look it up yesterday. It's about a little less than 72 hours to be able to get it all done. And then it breaks off. And that big break off from past Christmas into middle of February, the way it's been the last few years, and maybe it changes this year, especially with Dion and kids maybe wanting to go out there and visit. But the way that it's happened the last few years is that kids want to be where they're going to be at the end of that first window, because if you wait until February, a lot of times, a lot of these schools, including the Nick Sabans of the world and all the other up and coming schools, Kirby Smart, goes on and on and on. You're worried that if you go, well, I'm gonna wait, and then all of a sudden they're gonna say, "Hey, bud, I'm sorry, but I don't have a spot for you." And so really, and I do like it this way. I prefer it this way. I think it's so much better than having to wait, because you find out who you got, and maybe you sew up some things in the transfer portal, etc. after that. But you find out who is coming, and then you kind of go from there, and then you try to hit some major needs in February. But he's going to have to really put the foot on the gas pedal to get out there and recruit, and not stand around and have a bunch of, I mean, basically when he's doing that on social media and they're sharing that to social media, he's grandstanding for, I don't even know why. He just got there. Just get in there and get it done. Things are going to be different in Colorado. I think he's going to find out. They don't have facilities that some of the other schools have. Not yet.
No, and again, like to the point I mentioned earlier, this honeymoon's going to be nice, but it's going to go by really quick. And results at the end of the day. This talk is cool early, but it could come back and get you if you don't succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to end up with, well, I still think, and we'll see what happens, but I don't know if you saw the part of the video where Hunter was shooting his mouth off, Travis Hunter, and telling the kids there at Colorado. I can't remember what he said because some of it was inaudible, but it was something to the effect of, you better get it straight because I'm on my way, right? Okay, first of all, you have not played for a Power 5 team against Power 5 teams yet. So just because you were the top high school recruit, that don't mean jack.
Correct.
And you almost really want to see, I haven't looked at Colorado's schedule, but I'd like to see that first time he goes toe-to-toe with USC next year. And he gets scorched. And how quick he jumps in the transfer portal. We'll see what happens. Supposedly he's the real deal, and I'm not saying he's not, but he hasn't proven himself yet. Anyways, we'll move on. We'll get to some college football bowls. You got a lot of bowls that are going to be going down next week. There's actually a doubleheader next Friday, which I find intriguing, and then you have a bunch of games on Saturday, and games of interest, right? Games of interest that are going to be going on. And when I say that, I'm talking about the SEC, the ACC, obviously in this area. You start off with the ACC, SEC. And so what time is that first game? Okay. First of all, there is a pretty good bowl on that Friday, and I am intrigued by this. And it's two Southern teams. They may not be Power 5, but UTSA and Troy are playing at 3:00 on Friday at the Cure Bowl, Duluth Trading Cure Bowl. That's a pretty cool matchup. The one before that is absolute garbage. Miami of Ohio versus UAB. But then against the Bahama Bowl, and the Bahama Bowl is never a great matchup. But UTSA Troy, I mean, that's the number 24, number 25 team in the country squaring off in the Cure Bowl in Orlando. That's a great one, and it's evenly matched. Troy's only favored by 1.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good game. I don't know where my pulse is yet on where I'll be with the winner, but definitely a game I'll be looking forward to early on in this bowl schedule.
I kind of like the over. The over is just 54.5.
I think I agree with you on that.
I would typically say in recent memory UTSA because they've been so good recently, but man, Troy has got a big time pedigree when it comes to playing really good football over the last 2 decades. So I'm kind of leaning Troy, and I kind of figure they're going to have a really good showing down there in Orlando, not too far from Troy, Alabama. When in doubt, I'm going to take the Alabama team over the Texas team because recent memory tells me that Alabama normally wins up.
Amen.
The next day, that's when we get the brands, right, that everyone is familiar with. And the first one that day is Cincinnati, Louisville. I think that's kind of a waste. I don't even know if I'm going to waste my time watching that one per se, because you've got the Louisville coach. We talked about this yesterday, but you got the Louisville coach leaving Louisville to go to Cincinnati. Is there going to be any kind of gauge on what these teams are going to look like next year? There's no way he coaches in that game one way or the other.
Oh, no, not at all.
And it's being played in Boston at 11 a.m. I mean, I can't think of a worse scenario for these kids, but at least they get done early, and I would hope Louisville and Cincinnati would be cool enough for their kids after the game to stay in Boston on Saturday night and kind of light the town up and then take off Sunday morning, but probably not. But
enjoy Christmas break after that fun game.
And you know what you do? You tell coach, say, hey, you gonna stick around for Saturday night? No? All right. Well, then, okay. Well, then we're gonna party on Friday night and see how you like it. 11 a.m. kickoff. What do I care? What are you gonna do? You're gonna be in Cincinnati.
They definitely stuck that game down there. And like, ooh, this is not a good one. I see Jackson State, man, a lot of coaches aren't going to be coaching on this bowl game day.
The first big game of interest to me is the 2:30 game, and that's Florida Gators are going to be taking on Oregon State. And the thing about that is, so first of all, who is going to play quarterback for the Gators? Right? Because Anthony Richardson's leaving to go to the NFL, so there's no way he's playing, right? And then you got Kitna, who got busted, whatever he was doing. I don't even want to know, but something weird with the internet.
Not touching that one.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on from that subject. That just skeeves me out. But anyways, who is going to play quarterback for the Gators? And will they be able to do anything against a pretty darn good Oregon State team?
I mean, if they don't have a quarterback, I mean, McGee, you would know a lot better than me. I wonder who will even get the opportunity.
Well, the thing is with that. So here's the thing. Richardson really wasn't injured this year. The few times that he came out, it was Kitna. So if you look at what the possibility would be there, let me look at their depth chart, and
it's got to be scary one way or another. A lot of wishbone, maybe. Wow.
Jack Miller, a redshirt freshman. Jack Miller, a transfer redshirt freshman.
Sounds like a name you make up in a video game.
Yeah, Jack Miller the third. So he's made it up 3 times. And I do remember this kid. He's the kid that came from Ohio State. I remember this kid. I didn't realize that was his name, but okay. So that'll at least be interesting to see what he's got. I just don't know what can he possibly.
Was Kitna supposed to be the quarterback going into next year and make it an easy transfer that way? Was that supposed to be the plan, or do you think they were going to go after it? Yeah, so
Kitna was highly regarded. I mean, his dad played in the NFL.
I remember greatly, mostly for the Lions.
There was some hope for Jack Miller, but I didn't realize that's who this was. But I remember the kid coming from Ohio State. But I mean, he's a freshman. I don't even think he's taken a snap, and he's going to be going up against a pretty good Oregon State team.
Yeah, and look, that Florida
Oregon
offense.
State, that line keeps getting higher and higher. It was 8 the other day, and it is now to 10 on Caesar Sportsbook. And I wouldn't be scared to take Oregon State. The only thing I'll say is that Florida might have the better athletes up front, and they might be able to run the ball. But the game is also out in Las Vegas, so it's not even like they're going to have any home field. There's no Gator fan that's excited about going to this game. The only ones that would be excited for going to the game is because they get to go to Las Vegas, right? But anyone that goes from Gainesville or the state of Florida to Las Vegas to see a bowl game, they might they might lose their shirt before the ball game and end up having to leave Vegas. So,
And hey, that Florida offense didn't look great at most times with Richardson, so it could get ugly.
I mean, Tony, who is watching right now, and he's one of our, was one of our contributors. He's got a hectic and diehard Gator. He says he's not even going. And that kind of surprised me because I thought he would be looking for an excuse to go to Vegas. You know, why do
wait for a minute?
He's going to go to the game and then just go out there and hit the craps tables to make sure to take a picture out in front of the stadium, you know, with his Gator gear on. Can't wait for this big matchup.
That in a nutshell. If he's not going, you know something's bad.
All right, on to blackjack. Let's go. Couple other games before we have to hit the top of the hour break. We'll hit one more and then we'll do more on the other side. I think the other biggest game of that day to me, the most intriguing game, I'm kind of interested in SMU BYU, but the 3:30 Washington State Fresno State game. That should be a fun one. Both teams did a little better than a lot of folks thought. Fresno State's given up 1.5 points. I'd be willing to roll the dice with Washington State on that one, I think.
Yeah, Washington State, I'm a big fan of the head coach, so that's why I'm going to go with them, and I think they'll put up some points and take care of business.
Absolutely. The over-under on that one, by the way, is 54.5. And we will do a college football bowl challenge like we normally do. I'll get those up to you guys this weekend, and should be a lot of fun. We keep up with it. We do point spreads, et cetera, et cetera. That's one of those games that I'll probably change my mind 17 times before kickoff.
One of those where you don't know exactly where it's going. You just hope it lands.
All right. We got to hit the top of the hour and hit the ID. We'll be back in a flash here on The Key, WQEE, Noonan, Georgia, Atlanta Radio, and Armchair Quarterbacks, Braves Country. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. The NBA has a light night tonight on TNT, a doubleheader. Lakers at Cavs at 7:30 Eastern, and at 10 o'clock, it's Mavs at the Nuggets. Also tonight, Pistons are at the Heat. That game is at 7:30. In the National Hockey League, it's just about a full slate. Some of the games of interest on the ice tonight. Most of these can be seen on ESPN+. Red Wings are at the Lightnings at 7 o'clock Eastern. The Devils will look to continue to dominate as they host the Blackhawks at 7. Blues are at the Islanders at 7:30. Penguins host the Blue Jackets at 7. Panthers and Jets, the puck drops at 8. Best game on the late slate at 8:30, the Maple Leafs are at the Stars. That can also be seen on Hulu. While the Canadians at 10 o'clock are at the Kraken. Top 25 action in college basketball. Jimmy V Classic, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Number 2, Texas hosts number 17, Illinois. That doubleheader will conclude at 9:30, where the 6-1 Iowa Hawkeyes will take on the Duke Blue Devils, number 15 in the country. Both games are on ESPN and in Madison Square Garden. 7 o'clock Eastern on the SEC Network. Number 9 Arkansas hosts Greensboro. Number 1 Houston welcomes in UNF. The North Florida Ospreys are 0-5 and a 32-point underdog. Virginia and James Madison, that tip is at 8 o'clock on the ACC Network. Number 13 Maryland is at Wisconsin at 9 o'clock on ESPN2. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com at Braves Country.
How do 3 men in their 30s not have $800 between them?
The economy is in shambles. Right? Taking the NASDAQ marketplace right now. Dow Jones.
Stop talking fine.
That's the sound of NyQuil Severe hard at work. NyQuil Severe is the best sleep with a cold medicine. No tossing and turning, just rest and recovery. So you're ready to take on tomorrow. For powerful relief of your worst cold and flu symptoms, try NyQuil Severe. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Take this the best in sports and entertainment and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.
Welcome back, Braves Country. As we are hour number 2, got a lot to get into. Go ahead and kill that. I don't know how long that song goes on for. I thought it was 20 seconds. I'm looking at this guy here is going to be doing an encore. Okay, so other college bowl games. Haven't gotten your take on this yet, but the College Four, I think they got it right. Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Michigan. And I also am excited about it because I don't think TCU had any shot of upsetting Georgia. But Ohio State could sneak up on them. And I also believe that TCU could sneak up on Michigan. The only thing that would be the drawback of that is we might get a really bad national championship game if TCU faces Georgia. Not so much. I think TCU would have a puncher's chance against Ohio State. I know a lot of that logic doesn't realistically make sense. When I look at the matchups, TCU can hang with Michigan as long as they can stop that run, slow them down. It can be kind of a gritty type of ball game, and those are the types of games that TCU can normally win. Conversely, Ohio State, they've got an offense that can put points on the board. I don't think they're going to do it. I think Georgia is going to run through them. That 6.5-point spread to me is not big enough. What say you?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with the 4 teams that got in. I didn't want any 2-loss teams in there. I know Alabama got a lot of talk there near the end, but happy they didn't find their way in. When it comes down to the spread in the Georgia-Ohio State game, I want to hope for good games, obviously, but if I have to be smart, Georgia, 6 points. To me, it'd have to be 7.5 for me to feel comfortable and take Ohio State. On their home field, they just had a really bad performance against a Michigan team you can never overlook. It's one of the biggest rivalries in college football. And then when you look at Michigan TCU, I'm going to be pulling for Duggan because, boy, in that championship game, I was just rooting for him, and as an outsider with my team not in the fight, TCU will definitely be the team. I hope they can pull the Cinderella story.
Well, I think don't you think that's America's darling at this point is TCU? Because all the other three are big brands. So unless you're a Georgia fan or you're one of these knuckleheads that only pulls for the SEC, or you're an Ohio State or Michigan fans, or you're one of these boobs that only pulls for the Big Ten, most Americans pull for the underdog because America was an underdog story.
Yes.
So that's why that's why you get that. I've never been one that pulls for my conference. I don't believe in it. I think it's ridiculously stupid. And I'll never be convinced to pull for my conference. Because when you pull for your conference, you're pulling for teams in your conference, your rivals, to do well so that they can recruit well, so they can kick the crap out of you so you're not in the playoffs next year either. That makes no sense at all.
I don't even get the chance to hope for a conference because Notre Dame's not in one, so I don't even know that.
Yeah, Notre Dame will be in the Big Ten before it's all said and done.
Very true.
I would be shocked if it was the SEC. I think they end up in the Big Ten.
Agreed.
But at that point, you'll see where I'm coming from, and either you'll be one of these conference heads, as I call them, where because they pull for teams that aren't any good, so they're all about the conference. I'll give you an example. Florida State's basketball team is horrendous this year. They've had injuries. They've got one guy who's suspended. They're playing with 7 guys, and typically they need 10 to 12 guys with the type of offense and defense that Hamilton plays, right? I didn't all of a sudden say, well, I'm going to pull for Duke and North Carolina. Let's go. No, you know what I did? I said, I'm not going to watch it, man.
I'm with you.
Here. I mean, this team is so bad. It's not even heading to the no chance of making the NIT. So, but I've never understood that. Hey, let's pull for that. I used to go through that when I lived in Tennessee. I used to go through that all the time. I would hear a guy that would pull for Tennessee football and Kentucky basketball. And first of all, that makes no sense whatsoever. Pick a school. But then the other thing is when they say, well, I pull for them because in the SEC. I'm like, yeah, but the better Kentucky does, especially how close they are to Knoxville, the worse Tennessee's going to do.
Yeah, and most of the time you'll end up cheering for rival teams that you have big rivalry. I just don't like the whole thing.
It's bandwagon is all it is. Because now Tennessee's got a very good basketball team, and all those same knuckleheads, I don't hear any of them talk about Kentucky basketball. All they do is talk about Tennessee basketball. So that's all it is. It's bandwagon. It's, and we all see it on social media every once in a while. There'll be someone say, I'm a Tar Heels, Braves, and then they'll also throw Bulldogs. And then like Texas baseball. I'm like, wait, whoa.
Who raised you?
I'm going to have to ask you to pick a school. When he was coaching, I used to be a Coach K fan, but I wasn't really a Duke fan, right? I pulled for Coach K if my team was eliminated, but it wasn't really it never felt the same. It wasn't like when they won a championship. It wasn't like when the Braves won. And I will never be convinced to pull for the Phillies or the Mets or the Nats or the Fish in baseball.
Oh, when it comes down to the pro teams, in football or in baseball, I'm not rooting for my division at any point in time. Get out of here with that stuff.
We used to get that. Well, heck, we got it this year when the Phillies made the World Series, and you're involved in these social media groups where they're all, all they do is talk Braves. And so many of them were like, oh, you got to pull for the National League. I'm not pulling for my division rival.
Nope.
It's different if the Cubs are in there, right? And no longer am I guess when I was younger and there was a difference between the two leagues, between the National League and the American League because of the DH, I tended to pull for the National League over the American League in the World Series. But once first of all, they got rid of the DH, and when they started doing the whole thing where everybody plays everybody all the time, because used to you didn't get interleague play at all. And now that it's on, they're, because of the way the teams are lined up, you have interleague every single day, at least one game. So I don't do that, but there's no way I'm pulling for them. Or even better, idiots down here that'll say, I'm a Seminole, but I pull for the Gators and the Hurricanes because they're Florida. Like, what?
Get out. That's crazy.
There's Georgia Tech fans out there going, go Bulldogs. I want to see them do well. If they do, if anyone like that, don't trust them.
Absolutely not.
You're in North Carolina and some guy's got Tar Heel blue on, but they get knocked out and he's talking about, Camden crazies and let's go. No.
Might be a serial killer.
There's something up with them. FBI's gonna be looking at his phone. All right, back to the action. So that to me kind of concludes the first weekend. The rest of those games are kind of garbage. Let's go ahead and dive into some NFL. We're going to get back to college football on the next break, but I do want to get back to the NFL because we said we were going to talk about matchups this week and some injuries they're going to be hitting. You've got some interesting matchups that to me are going to be very important for the playoffs, and one of them is not Thursday night's game. Today's Tuesday. That game Thursday night is absolutely garbage. Raiders versus Rams. I bet you it is on Prime Video. As much money as they put out there to not only get the rights, but the money that they put on Herb Street and the money that they put in on Al Michaels, I guarantee you they are regretting this. And I bet you Al Michaels is regretting going to the Thursday night game of the week.
I think so.
Because he used to get the game of the week, right? The Sunday night game is the game. It would get flexed if it sucked. Let's go. This one, he's stuck wherever it is because you can't flex the Thursday night game. It's impossible because you can't call up the 49ers and Bucks tonight and say, hey, by the way, I know we said you're going to play on Sunday, but let's bump that up 4 days. So you can't do that. That game is just garbage. But games that are of interest, to me, that Bucks 49ers game in San Francisco gets a lot more interesting. To see if the Bucks can get some of this momentum and go, but also what can Purdy bring to the 49ers in a game that starts off 0-0 and a defense that's going to be able to game plan for him.
Oh, absolutely. And even because we were talking about this earlier, being, a part of Bucks fan number Tampa Tones, it's like that 3 seed is going to be very important to get. And that's what San Fran and Tampa Bay is fighting for, because if you get that 4th and come in first place and you get that 4th seed, you're going to be probably playing the Dallas Cowboys, which will not be easy. If you get that 3 seed, you can play a team maybe like the Giants or Washington, who are good teams, but I think Dallas is more formidable. So there is a lot on the line this weekend. And like you said, with a good week off for people to prepare for Purdy, the Bucks defense.
The devil, the Rams. Guess who just claimed Baker Mayfield off of waivers?
The Rams did?
The Rams. Why?
Whoa. I thought man.
Well, they get dibs essentially because they're one of the worst teams in the national. So it goes by record, right? What in the?
Is there any reason that they
why would you? The only reason why
block San Francisco, maybe?
What's that?
Maybe to block San Francisco because
I don't think coaches and GMs think like that. Reason why I think they would be doing it is because maybe they think that they're concerned the Stafford injury is worse than what it is, and they've got to think of something for next year.
I mean, with how banged up Stafford's been, you never know when his career could come to an end. He got the ring already. I'm with you.
That to me is insane.
Yeah, I did not expect
just
that.
came across Panthers receive about $1.4 million in cap space back. You're 3-9. You have no shot of making the playoffs in the NFC. All right, We'll move on from that. I don't even know what you were talking about. I got sidetracked by that. I apologize. Jets Bills. I think that's the game of the week. Jets Bills. If the Jets can beat the Bills, remember the Jets already beat them the first time.
True.
So if the Jets beat them, they would be one game behind the Bills and literally one game behind the Bills because they would own the tiebreaker.
And that Jets team,
that's happening. The Dolphins and Chargers are your Sunday night game.
And that Jets team fights. I mean, the Vikings came out to a big lead on Sunday, and the Jets battled all the way back, and when they had opportunities to win that game. Mike White's third start now this season with the team. Like you said, if you get the sweep, everyone thinks the Jets are going to fall. If they win this week, they're not going anywhere, and they could be right in the middle of division things. And then going to that Sunday night game, I'm glad they put that one there because there's always excitement always with Chargers offense.
If you're just joining us, breaking news just happened a moment ago. Baker Mayfield has been picked up by the Rams. So, all right, other games of interest. What jumps out at you?
I am looking at that Baltimore and Pittsburgh game now without Lamar Jackson being able to be, they said, I think 1 to 3 weeks was the latest report today we got on him. So Baltimore, who had everything seemed to be rolling, even though the offense has had its struggles this year, I want to see what Pittsburgh can do against them. They've won a couple games in a row, and the quarterback Pickett has looked better over the past few weeks, not turning it over at all. In fact, that game against Atlanta on Sunday was a close game once again. So can the Bills actually do, could the Ravens actually do something without Lamar? They didn't prove that last year with all those injuries. Could they find a way to squeak out a tough game against Pittsburgh, who always shows up?
Ravens, by the way, so they're 8-4, and so are the Bengals. And the Bengals are going to be hosting the Browns. You're saying that you think Lamar will play?
I think he's going to be out. They said 1 to 3 weeks with.
Yeah. Okay. I was about to say I must have misunderstood you because I was about to say I don't think he's going to play. He's got a PCL strain, and it's going to be now. Here's the thing: his backup played pretty well, but the game plan changes big time. He becomes a much more conservative game plan with Hundley in there, and probably a really low scoring game.
I think Steelers will win that game.
If they don't, it's going to be close. That over under sits at 37, and I think that's too high. That's just the nature of the beast. You're rarely going to have an over under in the National Football League that's much lower than 37. But I think both teams are going to struggle to get past 15 apiece. I'd be very eager to at least tease it, but I think I'm going to grab that Steelers under. All right, brother. I know you got to jam out of here. What is your walk-off?
Yeah, my walk-off is I'm going to enjoy my last night. We're going to go to the Lightning game tonight. They take on the Detroit Red Wings, which is a big game in the National Hockey League with two good teams. So I'm going to enjoy that and back to reality tomorrow. So good luck with the rest of the show and have a good one.
All right, well, safe travels, and we'll see you, on Thursday?
Yes, sir, Thursday.
All right. We will be back in a flash. We're hitting the 420 mark. Smoke them if you got them. We'll be back here on Braves Country.
Y'all, I can't do it anymore. I always said that I would shoot y'all straight, and that's what I'm doing here. I always said that if this became not fun, I wouldn't do it anymore, and it's not fun. It's become more of a chore. It's a job. I've thought about it. I prayed over it. Sometimes in life you have to reevaluate things and figure out what's most important between, family and work and just everything in life. This ain't it. So as of tonight, I am no longer participating in fantasy football. I don't have time for it. And maybe next year.
Armchair.
The Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is handpicked to your specifications. If If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to DixieHandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99 WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
Hi, you're listening to Armchair. We're here weekdays, drive time, your first choice for sports talk on the First Coast.
Saturday, December 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern, it's the Army-Navy game. Army Black Knights go head-to-head with the Navy Midshipmen. An American classic that dates all the way back to 1890. The Armchair Quarterbacks Radio Network will be there bringing you the action. The 121st meeting, Army-Navy, Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here. YouTube.com/@Braves Country.
As you know, Monty, Vaughn's been working on a couple of new pitches, the Eliminator and the Humiliator, to complement his fastball, the Terminator. I heard that. Dynamite drop-in, Monty. That broadcast school has really paid off.
Welcome back here. Mac McGee here on Braves Country. We'll be taking you all the way to the top of the hour. And, man, a lot of moving and shaking in the world of sports. Looks like the Cleveland Guardians have signed Josh Bell in free agency. They're saying it's a 2-year deal worth $33. So Josh Bell cashing in on a pretty good postseason for the Padres. If you remember, he was a part of the deal that brought that brought Soto over to San Diego. So he signs a 2-year deal. You know, I think he's extremely undervalued. I think he's a pretty good stick. I know he's not a great defensive player, but with the designated hitter in both leagues now, I'm a little surprised that he doesn't get more interest. I was surprised that he was a throw-in for the Soto deal, but whatever. I do believe that the Guardians sound like that they're ready to spend a little more money in this offseason, and that could be the first step. Of course, us here in Braves Country, all ears, all everything is on where is Dansby Swanson going to sign and when is he going to sign? Because if he signs with somebody else, then we can just move on and see what the rest of the team looks like. And ever since Anthopoulos has taken over the Braves, you don't get much of a peep out of which side they're leaning. So anything that you're hearing is most likely nonsense. It's all speculation, and everyone comes up with their own theory, and they all come up with trade rumors. And I saw one post yesterday. I mean, what in the world are people on where they talk about the top 3 free agents that they would like to see the Braves sign? And they were insinuating that all 3 should be signed. And, of course, Dansby Swanson was on there. And then it was Carlos Rodon. And I'm trying to remember who the third player was. Oh, Brandon Nimmo, the outfielder, the free agent for the Mets. He's been rumored to the Rockies, but he is not signed yet. But he is, from my understanding, has arrived in San Diego, so he might be close to a deal. Whoever gets Nimmo, and I'm really surprised that the Mets aren't going after him to keep him. I think he's a phenomenal player. I said it many times last season. He is by far my favorite Met. And I don't have many of them, but he's my favorite Met. And it's because the way he plays the game, it's not just the hustle and all that kind of stuff. Okay, whatever. But him and Marte are my two favorite Mets, because if you watch them, first of all, you can tell that the winning matters to them. And just like a Dansby Swanson, we all gravitate to those kind of players, right? But the way he goes about his everyday process, to me, is impressive. His at-bats. Whenever the Braves would play Nimmo, and so I started paying attention to when the Mets were on TV and they were playing someone else. I was like, is he just doing this against us or what? And this is his process. He goes up there like a true leadoff hitter, like a throwback, and he is there to work the count. And when he gets 2 strikes on him, and I really wish more players would do this, I think you will see them do it more with all that's going on with the changing of outlawing the shift and, of course, the bases and et cetera, et cetera. And they're trying to get more balls in play. But you're going to start getting rewarded for getting more balls in play because you're going to get a higher batting average, which is going to give you a higher OPS, et cetera, et cetera. But Nimmo will shorten his swing. He'll choke up on the bat, and he'll fight you. He'll fight pitch after pitch after pitch, and he's not up there swinging for the fence. And it's refreshing. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Acuna fan. I love Acuna. I love watching him play. He's an incredible talent. But it's refreshing to see a leadoff hitter who knows that his number one goal is to get on base. And as opposed to what we see a lot with Acuna, and I know sometimes he gets into one and knocks one out of the park to start the game. That's great. But how many times do we watch a Braves game and the first at bat by Acuna is swing at the first pitch, and it's a ground ball to the left side of the infield. It's an easy out, and there you go. And then Dansby comes up, and he's trying to lay into one, and all of a sudden it's 2 pitches, 2 outs, and whoever the number 3 hitter happens to be at the time, whether it's Olsen, whether it's Riley, they feel like they have to take the first pitch because the first 2 guys swung at the first pitch. You don't want a 3-pitch inning. It's kind of an unwritten rule when it comes to baseball. So the pitcher knows that, and he can just lay one in there for a strike, and your number 3 hitter, who's supposed to be your most dangerous hitter, is immediately down 0-1. And if you ever look at the numbers, the difference between what the batting averages are and the success rate of batters from 0-1 to 1-0, it's enormous. And so that's why I'm a huge Nimmo fan. If there was one offensive player I would love to see the Braves grab, they just don't need a center fielder. I guess he could play left. It would be Brandon Nimmo because he would be a great top of the order guy. You could either keep him at leadoff and have Acuna bat second, or you could just do what is more logical, is just let Acuna lead off and have Nimmo bat second. And I know he would be phenomenal at moving the batter over. And he's very good defensive. He's got speed, whole 9 yards. But anyways, all 3 of these guys were being named, and the guy that put it in the chat was like, these are the 3 that I want. And if we don't get these 3, and I'm like, in what world are you living that the Atlanta Braves are going to bring in 3 of the top free agents when we couldn't even keep Freddie Freeman last year? We're out there clipping coupons, and these fans get on these social media platforms, and it's like the drunk guy, last call. He's sitting on Amazon. He's buying everything he doesn't need. That's not how Anthopoulos built a World Series champion. It's not how he's won 5 consecutive divisions. And it's not going to be the way he goes moving forward. Now, the ownership has said that they felt like in the future, I always say we, and I know people out there, I'm a Braves fan. I don't care what you say. It's a we. I've been a Braves fan for 4 decades. It's a we. Damn near 5. So, but until we get out of the television contract, I don't see us being a top 5 team as far as payroll. When that happens, they've talked about being able to spend. We're still a couple of seasons from that. So you hope we get one big name free agent, whether it's retaining Dansby or maybe going out and getting a Rodon and you let Grissom play short. At the most, we get 2. At the very, very most. But I don't even think that that's realistic. It seems like with the young kids, they've locked them all up. They've still got a few that they would lock down, but they've locked so many of them up. They're building this team to be able to compete long-term, and they're not going to sacrifice. And remember, we're still stuck with that Ozuna contract, and nobody's going to want that. If I see it once, I see it 100 times a day. When are we going to trade Ozuna? You're not going to get anything for him, so quit bringing it up. If we trade Ozuna, we get rid of everything. I mean, that's just basic. I mean, that's science. You're not going to get anything for Ozuna. You would either A, have to trade him somewhere and give a bunch of prospects so somebody else takes that money, and that's not usually how the Braves do business, or you're going to pay Ozuna's contract and essentially get nothing back. And in any way you look at it, it's not going to be. I think they're going to roll into this season and hope that he corrects his swing, hoping that he behaves and doesn't get arrested again. Speaking of that, did you see the St. Louis Cardinals? Their broadcaster, his name's slipping on my mind, but he got busted for a DUI, and they called it something else, DWI with. Anyways, it's his 3rd offense. It'll be interesting to see what happens there, because typically clubs end up firing over things like that. And I'm a little surprised he's made it with 2, especially nowadays with social media and everybody going after everybody. I can't imagine that he's going to be able to even do anything with that. I think he's going to be in trouble. And it sounds like he is in trouble. If you got 3 DUIs in a short period of time, that tells me in today's day of Uber, and this guy's not struggling for money, so it's not like that's the issue. I mean, my God, man. Get some help before you kill somebody. The Brewers, their general manager was on MLB Network earlier today, and they were asking him. So there's rumors out there on whether or not they may trade Corbin Burns or possibly one of their other, Woodruff. And he kind of skated around the question, but he made it sound like that he wouldn't. But then again, of course, most guys are tradable. It really just depends on what kind of goes down. There's very few players in any sport that you say are off limits. But if there's a guy that you would say is probably off limits, is it not Corbin Burns? But when that rumor came out a few weeks ago, I was really surprised that it was even a thing, and it was coming from Milwaukee sources. It wasn't something where some guy who writes for 247 Sports or whatever is out there just making up stories to try to get clicks. Oh, here's some news from Ken Rosenthal. Andrew Heaney has signed a deal with the Rangers. So they get DeGrom, and now they add a left-handed starter in Heaney. that one seems like a reach, but then again, I don't see the numbers yet. And if it was a fairly cheap deal, then it's not that big of a risk for the Rangers. But when you look at Corbin Burnes and why they would trade him, Corbin Burnes, if this is correct, what I'm looking at, is not an unrestricted free agent until 2025. So, in other words, 2 more years of control, 23 and 24. If you are going to be moving someone like Burnes, with that much, 2 years left. And I think sometimes these writers come up with these things because, like, man, can you imagine what we could get back? Guy's got 2 years left. He's an elite pitcher, won the Cy Young a couple of years ago. Same thing with Woodruff, by the way. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent in 25. So really what Milwaukee has, in my opinion, is a short window to go for it. Woodruff is going to be 32 when he hits the free agent market, and Burnes is going to be 30. Milwaukee is not normally a team that goes out and spends a lot of money on these types of free agents. So I can't imagine that they're going to do this. But if you're going to move one or the other, I really think it's Woodruff, because he's a little bit older. And if Milwaukee was going to back the truck up, you'd think it would be to Burnes. And then, of course, you have Peralta too, but he's been banged up left and right. So I just don't see Milwaukee. There's always these rumors that come out. There's always this random team during the winter meetings, and that they come out and they come with all these wild scenarios. And then what ends up happening? Nothing ends up happening. It's very rare that we get anything like that. I'm going to scan real quick to see if there's any other news that has broken with this, and all just Aaron Judge speculation. And Aaron Judge was at the game last night in Tampa, and Bob Nightingale's tweeting out, can you imagine if he follows the team to Tampa? I mean, from Tampa Bay plays San Francisco this week. But I don't see much of a connection there. Because why would you be in Tampa to go watch the 49ers play when Tampa was playing New Orleans? But this is how these guys are getting clicks right now. And, of course, you got 2 Japanese stars. One's a batter and one is a pitcher. And they are going to be hitting the free agent market. They're going to be posted, and we'll see what happens with that. Also saw Yu Darvish said that he's going to pitch for Japan in the World Baseball Classic. Find that interesting, because I didn't think any of these big-name pitchers would pitch in the Classic on any side. That's a lot of money you're risking. Go out there and pull a ligament. The World Baseball Classic is this spring. I look forward to it as a fan. But I really don't want any Braves pitchers out there. Let's keep them healthy. And if you're a fan of whoever, if you're a Cub fan, a Red Sox fan, Yankees fan, you don't want any. If you're a Red Sox fan, you don't want Chris Sale out there chucking the ball around as much as he's been injured. We're going to be back in a flash when we come back. College bowl lines as we finish up this hour here on WQEE.
What about Kelso? I mean, Jackie has him totally whipped.
Ribbed like the family pig.
I am not pig whipped. It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. Little Bites? That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute? I love Little Bites. I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay? Got it. As I was saying, whenever I bring home you-know-what, you-know-who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high-fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious. I love Little Bites. Here you go. Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. The perfect portion of happiness.
Like, I don't like winter. Like, I hate winter. Like, I'm originally from North Carolina, and look, I hate winter so much, I'm for global warming. I am voting for it, marching for it. I might start buying people SUVs. I don't care. Ladies, start using hairspray again. No ozone. That's our goal. And see, there's people with me, but there's always a couple of crunchy granolas sitting around. Crunchy granolas sitting there thinking, but the polar ice caps are going to melt and we're all going to flood. No, we're not. We're not all going to flood. We're only losing Rhode Island, Long Island, and Jersey. Bye-bye.
Armchair.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, home of Braves country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Key and YouTube.com at Braves Country. Want to chime in? Give us a call, 678-960-9700. That's 678-960-9700. Saturday, December 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern, it's the Army-Navy game. Army Black Knights go head-to-head with the Navy Midship, an American classic that dates all the way back to 1890. The Armchair Quarterbacks Radio Network will be there bringing you the action. The 121st meeting, Army-Navy, Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/@Braves Country.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, that or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Light it up and we smoke, keep me high up off the ground. And I hate
Welcome back. I heard a false report last night from a buddy of mine. I got to learn to start researching this when someone says it. But they had told me that Sean Murphy had been moved to Cleveland, and that is not the case. But he is getting a lot of interest. And once again, remember the Braves sent their highly touted catching prospect out there last year with the Matt Olson trade. And he played pretty well towards the end of the season for the A's. So they're looking to move Murphy because there's no sense of them having two really good catchers, especially with a team that has, well, let's be honest, they're strapped for cash. All right, back to some football. Looking at some of these lines to see where they're at right now and what might be a good play. Let's jump off here. First of all, Notre Dame, South Carolina, that one really intrigues me. I know it's technically not a New Year's Six game, but the Tax Slayer Bowl in Jacksonville, Notre Dame is a 3.5-point favorite against South Carolina. I would be really intrigued to see where that line ends up. If that line gets bigger and bigger, I am going Gamecocks because I think the Gamecocks have a really good opportunity to upset, but if not, I do believe as well as they play down the stretch and they'll be excited to get to a good bowl game like that. I think Notre Dame's going to get everything from South Carolina that day. The over-under is at 52. That sounds about right, though if I was going to lean one way or the other, it would probably be the over. but I would have to see some of the splits between those teams before I made a choice there. Now, one of my favorite games that I'm looking forward to, and when is this game going to be? It is 8 p.m. on December 30th. So the night before New Year's Eve, the night before, oh my word, this is going to be a fun 24 hours of college football. The night before the playoffs, where you'll get the Georgia Bulldogs going head to head with Ohio State, which should be a phenomenal game. And then we hope we get a good game from TCU, Michigan. I don't know. I'm a little on the fence on that one. I feel like TCU has a good chance to stay close with them. And then their quarterback, TCU, if there's anybody who has a chance to pull off heroics, it's him. But with that being said, the night before the Orange Bowl in Miami, Tennessee, Clemson. And normally I would say this would be kind of a downer because you've got one quarterback in Tennessee, Hooker, who was a Heisman Trophy candidate before he went down. You got him who he's gone. He's done for the year. And then on the other side, you've got the starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers, who has announced that he's going to transfer, DJU. But their quarterback that they have there at Clemson, Cade, I think it's pronounced Klubnik, he is highly touted, and most of their other players I would suspect would play. I wonder about Will Shipley. We'll see what happens with that. But they've got a fairly young team at Clemson. They do have some folks that will be declaring for the draft, but all in all, I think most of the team will play. And they'll be going up against a Tennessee team that, let's be honest, that offense is lightning fast. And even though Hooker's not going to be pulling the trigger, Joe Milton, if you remember Joe Milton was the kid that transferred from Michigan. And what is he? Is he a senior? He's a redshirt senior. He's going to look at this as a very good opportunity for himself to be able to get on the field, show some scouts what he might have, and maybe get an opportunity at the next level. Now, that line right now is Tennessee is a 7-point underdog. I'd say a lot of that has to do with Hooker. I would be interested in taking the Vols plus the 7 because I think they're going to be able to move the ball. And there's always the recency bias because of the injury to Hooker, and people saw Clemson dominate in the ACC championship game. And there's all going to be all the hype for the new quarterback at Clemson. But I think Tennessee can hang points on anyone. They showed that with Milton. What do they hang? 56? And look, I get it that it's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is not. They're not exactly the Dallas Cowboys, right? But they hung 56 on a rival the week after losing their quarterback. That's going to be a very interesting game. And that's going to take place the night before the playoffs. And we're going to be that entire week, there's some really good games. If you start at the beginning, which is Tuesday, because obviously they don't go head to head with Monday Night Football. But that Tuesday, not a whole lot to get you excited about. There is a late game that Tuesday night, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State, but man, that's a late kickoff, 10:15. I don't think a lot of folks will stay up for that. Wednesday has a couple of interesting matchups, especially if you're an SEC fan. Arkansas and Kansas in the Liberty Bowl. So they should have a very good turnout for Memphis. And honestly, the Kansas fans, I would think, would come out. It's not that far of a travel for the Jayhawk fans. That night, Oregon and North Carolina, that's really not a bad game. You got Texas Tech Ole Miss on that same night as well. I think I'll more likely watch Oregon, North Carolina, just because you get a chance to see the two quarterbacks in Bo Nix and May. And Nix, see what he has. I've only seen like 2 games of Oregon this year because they always play so late, but he's looked a lot better than he did when he was at Auburn, and see what he can do there. Now that Thursday, and this is an interesting one because they have a 5:30 kickoff. And remember, the NFL has a game that night. In fact, if memory serves me correct, we were thinking about doing that game. There's no way I'm broadcasting it. The Titans are playing the Cowboys. So those are 2 really good games. Oklahoma, Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl at 5:30, and then you got Titans and the Cowboys. I believe that's the date right there on the 29th. That's a really good night of football. You also get what could be a very good bowl game, Texas, and a lot of people just think Texas is playing really good football. Every time someone jumps on that Longhorn bandwagon, they end up, to me, okay, I get that they blew out Kansas, but if you watch that TCU game, if you didn't, you pull up the score and say, hey, 17-10, that's not bad. They didn't score an offensive touchdown. That game was out of reach. It was 17-3, and TCU about spit the bit and had a turnover that was scoop and score, went about 50, 60 yards for a touchdown. They lost to Oklahoma State, and that's the game everyone said they're going to get them. I always feel like the Longhorns are always overhyped. And you think they're overhyped now, wait till they get to the SEC. That's a really good night of football when you've got Texas, Washington, Oklahoma, Florida State, and then you got the Thursday night game. And it all starts earlier that day. Syracuse, Minnesota is a 2:00 game, but you have to be a diehard fan to get locked into that at 2:00 on a Thursday. That Friday that we were just referring to, the Orange Bowl, it's that Friday. So you've got Tennessee and Clemson at 8:00. The Notre Dame South Carolina game is 3:30. So that's a heck of a doubleheader. And then if you dial it back just an hour and a half before that, Pittsburgh and UCLA, and that should be a shootout. And those are the only 3 games that are good that night. But then you roll into the next day, and I'm sorry, there's 2 other games that day. My word! On that Friday. Seems like a really strange day to have 5 games go on at once, but Maryland, NC State at noon. And then the Barstool Bowl is 4:30, Ohio and Wyoming. And there's no way many eyes are getting on that. When you got Pitt, UCLA coming down to the wire, and Notre Dame and South Carolina at full tilt, not a lot of people are going to flip over and check out the Ohio, Wyoming if you live east of the Mississippi. You would have to be a graduate of one of those teams, I would have to think. But that Saturday, New Year's Eve, because remember, there is no New Year's Day bowls this year because it falls on a Sunday. So the NFL will have their games top to bottom, and college football is going to take a day off, and they're going to play their New Year's Day games. They're all going to get kicked off by 5:00. The Rose Bowl will finish up, and then I believe there is a Monday Night Football game, so that's why the Sugar Bowl is being played at noon on that Saturday. But that Saturday, New Year's Eve, you got the Sugar Bowl, Alabama, Kansas State. You got Iowa, Kentucky. By the way, Alabama's a 4-point favorite, and it'll be interesting to see how that line moves because they're going to lose some kids to the portal. To the draft. They always do. Kansas State's going to be fired up for that. If that line gets any bigger, I'd be willing to take Kansas State because I think Alabama's going to have a hard time slowing down that offense. And that over-under, by the way, is 54.5, and I do think Alabama will score a lot of points. Iowa, Kentucky, that game's in Nashville. A lot of big games. And we are coming up at the top of the hour, so let me hit up just a couple of more before we have to jam out of here. By the way, you've got Farrell Coast to Coast coming to you at the top of the hour. Then, of course, tomorrow morning, get it started 7 to 10. Ryan O'Neal in his morning wake-up show. Caught a bit of it this morning. Really good show. Plays a little rock and roll and get your day going. And then, of course, we got all the great shows from noon on. Sports Beat from 2 to 3. And then if you're a hockey fan, noon to 2, really good show. But just to put a pin in all this stuff here, by the way, Tulane, USC, Cotton Bowl, this is another strange kickoff. That's the 1 o'clock January 2nd game. Now, remember, because New Year's Day falls on a Sunday, most of your banks and everything are going to be closed on that Monday. So it's essentially a national holiday. Well, we've got to start getting out of here. Tomorrow, Doug will be with us, and we'll get in hot and heavy into the NFL. If you're a fantasy football fan, we'll talk about what you should be looking out there on the waiver wire Wednesday. And I failed to mention it till now, but Tuesdays, we're going to be on YouTube every single day, youtube.com/@BravesCountry. But Tuesdays, we're going to be on Twitch, and then Thursdays on Twitter, and Fridays on Facebook. We're going to try to condense where everyone finds us, but we do want to hit all the different outlets. So tomorrow, just on YouTube, and we will, and of course, WQEE the Key, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, and not kind of a slow sports night. Couple of NBA games, but nothing that's got my fancy. I think I'm going to actually try to clear out the DVR. Y'all have a good one. And Farrell Coast to Coast is coming to you at the top of the hour.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please. Can I get another cigarette, please?
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Are you looking for a reliable dental practice that not only cares about your teeth, but is friendly to work with? How about one that offers great deals and new patient promotions? Well, your search is over. Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton, Georgia is committed to giving you the biggest and brightest smile. Right now, get a $99 new patient special, including x-rays and exam. Maybe you're looking for veneers. Most Valuable Smiles Veneer Special includes 1 free veneer with every 5 purchased. Or get that bright white smile you've always wanted by taking advantage of an exclusive $100 off Zoom whitening treatment when you book today. And don't forget that 2022 is almost over. That means most insurance policies will reset by the new year, and to avoid losing that extra money, you need to use it or lose it. Book an appointment today with Most Valuable Smiles in downtown Eatonton to lock in these exclusive deals. Call 706-623-0318 or visit mostvaluablesmiles.com.
Hey, sports fans. The Key has a brand new show. Braves Country is coming your way weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Drive time on WQEE. Braves Country is a Southern sports talk show with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We'll be talking the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball, along with everything important to sports fans in Braves Country. The SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and the National Football League, and the big sports news of the day. That's Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on WQEE, The Key, 99.1 FM, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@BravesCountry. Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family, have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made